to another one. Myself, SK, Vibemaker, Rinse FM, Rinse TV, The Breakfast Show, and we've got some special guests in the building, man. Canada, Toronto in the building. Majid Jordan, what's happening?
What's poppin', bro?
What's good, SK?
Damn, man. I mean, the UK is happy to see you. You're on the European tour, right?
Yeah, we just started last night in Manchester. It was crazy.
I mean, you're happy to be in Europe?
Of course. You know, we've been on the road for like a few months now, so it's a blessing to be here again.
I mean, some people have described you lot as maybe an industry secret. I mean, there's a lot of fans in the UK, a lot of fans in London, got fans around the world, but some people kind of describe you as a bit of an industry secret. How do you feel about that?
I mean, the thing we admire even about the UK is that, like, not many artists consider themselves in the industry. They just kind of get together and do what they want and do what they love. I think that's just how we work, you know. It's not about being in the spotlight or being out of the spotlight or trying to be a secret. We just keep to what we love to do, and that's just making music, wherever it may be.
I mean, The Space Between is the latest album, definitely R&B, but R&B in, like, I would like to say in a traditional sense. Some people say pop, some people say different. How would you explain your sound?
I mean, we are definitely inspired by pop and inspired by R&B, but the sounds that we come up with are very much inspired by, you know, Jordan spends a lot of time trying to fine-tune, I want to say, like, the temperature of the sounds that he uses. You know, some are like really warm and some are really filling. They'll fill a whole room with just like space, but some are really just raw and cold. So I think it's just a matter of just temperature. It's like, do we want to be warm in this song, or do we want to be vulnerable and raw in this song? And that's really what we're doing.
Yeah, I think of a lot of our storytelling is kind of like movie scene based almost, so I feel like there's a lot more of like a soundtrack element that we've been bringing in recently.
You know what, one thing I want to say at the beginning of the interview as well, some people think you guys are actually brothers, and I don't know if you find that funny. I know that you met at your 21st birthday, right?
That's right.
Have you heard the brother story much?
Well, I mean, I've never had a brother, and neither has he. We both grew up with sisters.
So we're brothers.
We're brothers, pretty much. I mean, like, you know, our friendship goes beyond just like regular friends. You know, we seen so much together. We've been through so much together. We just recently got back from Bahrain, which is a country I was born and raised in. And so he's pretty much like my brother, my world brother, you know. He's brought me, like, when I came to Canada, he brought me in and made me feel like I was at home. So I finally got to return that favor just 3 days ago. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, so we are brothers.
So Majid, I hear that you've got some British links, some British ties as well. Is your mum Irish?
My mother is Irish and Scottish, but she was born and raised in Fulham, actually. And she moved to Bahrain when she was 21. She had to drop out of college. She couldn't afford it. And like back in the 80s, it was kind of like, you know how Dubai now, a lot of people are moving over there because they're getting like higher pay and there's no tax. Bahrain was on that in the 80s, and they were just really looking for high-skilled workers that spoke English so that they could reach out to other markets. So my mom moved there and ended up loving it and stayed and met my dad, and that's where they live today still.
Have you guys had many musical influences from outside of Canada or America?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of my influences come from the UK. You know, like Fortet and the XX and, you know, Jamie and all those guys. I feel like that collective still is, you know, very influential. But when I was growing up in high school, I was always listening to like BBC Essential Mixes and following what you guys were doing. Definitely.
Give us some stories into like the beginning, because I know it was 2012 you released your first project together, right? I mean, tell us about the beginnings of Majid Jordan. Yeah,
like within a year of us meeting, we basically released After Hours, which is the first EP under Good People, the only EP under Good People. I think we just met, and we kind of had that appreciation and respect for one another, that as soon as we started to work, we took it seriously, just because you know, we both were kind of looking for somebody to work with musically, so it just happened, and I feel like it's only growing, and you know, when we get in the studio, it's the same type of vibes as 2011.
When you go back to listen to the After Hours EP, you hear a lot of minimalistic production and vocals. How would you say that you lot have grown and evolved since then?
I've learned to use Ableton. I mean, like, I was just starting to learn how to make music on a computer. I don't know. That EP to us, I think, is still magic. You know, there's something that we can always go back to and hear. You know, what our initial intention with music was. So I think it's beautiful. I think it's only grown into something that we've like learned to make sound exactly how we want it. Yeah.
I think early on, the way I existed and the way I enjoyed my time the most was the wind down after the party with my friends, intimate, couple people in a room. That was the mood. You know, I never really liked, I loved dancing and I love good music, but I never really liked going out and being in a big crowd in a room full of people and not being able to speak to one another. So I think now, as we've progressed, we've learned to live, I guess, more presently in different environments, and I think that's where the music changes. You know, we're living now, we're driving now, okay, now we're at a party, now we're with a loved one and we're alone, whereas before I only saw it through the eyes of being just with like my close friends after a celebration or after somewhere, and just being like, okay, now we're here, let's chill, what do we want to listen to? But I feel that world will always be my favorite.
Ideal settings.
Yeah, that's my ideal setting. The wind down after a great night with friends, and then after you've ditched like the extra, you have the real people that you can talk to about anything.
Saying links, gotta go home, yeah?
Yeah.
Groupies, gotta go home, forget that. And you spoke of the first take as well. I like the first take. You know, I come from listening to a lot of dancehall when I was younger. You know, reggae dancehall, it's very rough around the edges. First take, one take, go. Like vocal one time. I mean, there's a lot of artists that like to go in 10 times, 20 times, so many takes to sex it up. And I like the fact that you lot spoke about the first take.
Well, like Jay keeps me in check with that too. He's like, I think we have this. There's no reason to go back and do that. You know, that was our relationship from very early on, because even when we first started working on After Hours, our equipment was so limited that we'd only maybe get one take because the preamp would bust and it wouldn't work. So
was Majid Jordan the first choice and the only choice of what your musical partnership was going to be named?
It's a funny story. Yeah, we were trying to find a name for like a minute, and like, oh man, it's so funny. We were just like in the studio, and at that time we were really like under 40's wing, like a lot in the studio, and we were just learning how to actually utilize the studio, and he was just mentoring us. It was literally a conversation I think us three had, where it was just like, yo, fuck, how about just Majid Jordan? And it just sounded good, and it just, you know, I think we liked how you know, good people, you don't really know who's good people. And Majid Jordan kind of sounds like one person. So same type of thing, you know. It's cool.
Yeah. You're not always putting the love out there, because I see, like, I'm about to do a tweet watch. I see a tweet you recently put out, and you said, life is better when shared.
Definitely.
Some real positive energies.
Definitely.
I mean, who put that tweet out?
Me.
Straight.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's true, you know, like we've been on the road with our team, which is now like 10 people. Life is nothing when it's not shared, you know. It's not like it's if it's all for you, then yeah, go enjoy it by yourself. But it's way better when it's shared, man. You have way better energy, and you have a good time when you actually collaborate and have relationships with people. I feel like that's a big key to success, not only in, you know, the music industry, but in life. It's about like being present and being positive at the same time. Yeah.
Now, the space between the second album, you know, people talk about the album title. Is it the space between places, the space between people, relationships? I mean, how would you best summarize it?
It could be anything. I feel like if you try to explain it too much, it can get can shut other options out. We hear people say different things about what the space between means to them all the time. A place like this is the same kind of concept. What is a place like this to you? So yeah, we like to live in that kind of world.
Yeah.
Open interpretation.
Yeah. It's like just consciously being aware of what space between could mean. And if you understand that, it could mean a lot of things.
Yeah, even like when we went home, like we just went to Bahrain. Yeah. It felt like we were literally in the space between two tours. That was a last minute addition to our tour schedule. And thankfully we got to do it.
And it was like the most beautiful.
Yeah, he'd never been anywhere like that in the world. And all my friends, I had a second group, a second life over there that I moved away from when I was 17. And like I go back now, and some are married, some have babies. They couldn't even make the show because their baby's at home. So it's just
real life stuff.
Yeah, real life stuff. Life goes on, but the love is not forgotten. The love is there, and just knowing that support is always with you in spirit. That was why it felt like I was like in the space between being with them and then carrying them with me when I'm not there, and then having him there, whereas being there before without him and trying to explain what that world was like without him experiencing it for himself. So it's cool that finally he got to see it with his own eyes, and it's like, okay, now merging that imagination that he had from my stories with reality through what he experienced.
Now I'm about to talk about something that I think people should know more about. Your albums contain no samples. So Jordan, I think you're doing some magic in the studio.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Is this a thing that you try to hold back, or do you mind talking it up? No samples at all? Is that hard?
I mean, I love this question, man. I love it. Because it's like, this goes back to kind of how I make music. It's like, I feel always like I tell Maj, like, yeah, that's the take. I feel like it's much easier for me to make music when I'm limited, or when I limit myself. So it's like, we're in an age where it's limitless VSTs, plugins, royalty-free samples, which are, I guess, samples. Like anything's a sample. Like an 808's a sample. But like sample, like how people sample usually in music, I just stay away from it, just because then it's, I don't know, it's just safer for me to like make everything by myself, because then I could reuse it and sample myself. And I feel like that is just like the way I keep it moving. In the studio, I'll make drums and then use them at different BPMs and chop them and warp them, and then I've already like made 3 songs with the same drums, and then it's just the way I work, man.
Sprinkle the magic.
Yeah, just keep it all original, so it's like I don't really have to consciously worry about where I'm pulling my ideas from. I just kind of flip it, leave the studio, print the reference, chop it up, make another beat. I don't really have a moment where I'm like, I need to use that, so.
I suppose everyone knows that you're signed to OVO. Drake's the label head, the boss over there. Now it's a great place to be, but people talk about both sides of that, the gift and the curse, having a great springboard and being part of a big conglomerate, but then potentially being overshadowed by such a great artist. How would you talk about your experience at OVO?
Our experience has been amazing, to be honest. Like, we're in London right now, we're on our second world tour, where we have one of the greatest teams, tour teams. It feels like a family, truly, and I feel that's a lot of that comes down to Drake and his initial team, because a lot of the contacts we've made, like Demetrius, Coop, and those guys,
definitely,
their experience on tour came from touring with Drake. They have stories, they have knowledge, and they pass that on to us. 40, our mentor, all their experiences and all the mistakes that they made, they try to make sure that we don't make the same ones.
40 is very hands-on in your career, right? Giving you a lot of mentorship. Is Drake very hands-on? Does he come in the studio and get involved much?
Yeah, I mean, we're always like meeting up around the world in different places. I feel like it's up to people to share that information or not share that information, but we're very collaborative. I'm speaking for everybody. Like, everybody just seems to find their way into the studio, and I feel like that's how it should be. We're not really the type of artists to, go in the studio and just collaborate with people. you know, like I know a lot of people do that, and I'm not cutting that up, but it's just cooler when you get to just like see somebody in the studio, they're chilling on the couch, and then you guys have an idea, you know. It's like, then it's like, you know, it's meant to be.
The way the album's put together, the space between, people might notice the transition between songs, between tracks. I mean, I love that. It sounds like, in one way, it could sound like a whole, I don't know if this sounds negative, but it could sound like a whole song.
Perfect.
I love it.
Yep.
I mean, whose idea was that?
I've always really been interested in how to transition songs, and, you know, even when I DJ, it's kind of unorthodox. I'm just kind of like reverbing shit out and putting it into different tracks, and I'm very much in tune with like the BPMs and the keys of songs and relative minors and all that. So I just have fun with it, and I make it flow, and like that to me is like it makes me feel good when I achieve that. Yeah.
Gave Your Love Away is the latest offering off the album. Talk to us about this song.
This might be my favorite song that we've ever made, to be honest. Like, I just love this. I feel like I can listen to it anytime, and it brings me back to exactly where I want to be with our music. Yeah.
It's been another big one. Myself, SK Vibemaker for Rinse TV. We're Majid Jordan.
Yo, this is Majid.
This is Jordan.
We're Majid Jordan, Rinse FM, SK. Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate you guys, and we hope to see you soon.